Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Ceci Knits the World. I am Creative Ceci. You can find me on Instagram as well as Ravelry as Creative Ceci, and I'm really excited to launch my podcast. And this episode is my journey to EYF. I'm also known as the Edinburgh Yarn Festival. So I'll start with a little bit of background. I've been a knitter for about 17 years or so. I self-taught. I learned to crochet from my grandmother and wanted to get into knitting because I saw a lot of articles and, you know, the benefits of knitting and all the cool people in Hollywood who knit during the downtime of the movie sets and television shows. And so I said, okay, this is something I think I want to learn to do. And so I picked up a book, went to a yarn shop, and they taught me how to knit. My stitches were a little twisted, and so I was on my way to holiday in Vermont. And so when I got to Vermont, I found a yarn shop, and the nice woman who worked in the yarn shop was kind enough to help me untwist my stitches. I probably was knitting backward or something. I'm not really sure now what I was doing, but as a result of that day and her helping me to get my stitches straight, thus was born my love of knitting. And it has been an amazing adventure that's taken me around the world. I've met some really cool and interesting people who are still my fiber friends and fiber family. And along the way, I saw a lot of podcasting and blogs in the beginning and Ravelry, and joined everything and followed and watched a lot. And really didn't think that I would ever blog, or what if I did blog, what could I blog about? Because I wanted something, if I was to bring something to the blogging space, I would want it to be unique and different. And so in the past 2 years or such, as I've been traveling and going on Instagram and doing Instagram lives, I realized that there were a lot of people who enjoyed me taking them on my adventures. Whether it's my adventures for work or on holiday with my husband, or just hanging around New York and attending festivals with my fiber friends. And so I realized that I could launch a podcast and it could be interesting. And so here we go. For this episode, I'd like to talk to you about my time at EYF and for the Edinburgh Yarn Festival. So this is actually my third time going. I've gone before. I learned about the festival by watching Nappy Knitter, Bintu out of Paris, and one day she showed up and started posting these amazing photos of this festival in Scotland. And so I said, I must go to there. And thus I booked my trip, and a few girlfriends and I went over, and we had an amazing time. By this point, I had already been to Paris and met Amy of La Bien Amie and started our friendship. And so she was probably the only vendor at the festival that I knew that first year. But I did have an amazing time. The second year, I went with a larger group. So I went with, maybe there was 9 of us in our main group, and knew a lot more people by this time and knew a lot more vendors, because I brought yarn from Midwinter Yarn to make a sweater, which I was able to wear back there. I met Jess from Ginger Twist Studio, and I met Lorna from Stitch Birdie. And so this is not my second time. I know some people. By this time I've met the lovely group from Stephen and Penelope, so Stephen and Lou and Malia. And so now I'm developing this friendship of really cool and amazing people. So I wasn't sure if I was gonna go for this year because I had been twice. Not all my friends were going again. And then my dear friend Shantae of Harlem Pearl said she was going with a knit group that she attends where she lives here in New York. And she had never been out of the country, and this was gonna be her first time out of the country. She got a passport in order for her to go. And I'm like, okay, I need to go. I need to have this experience with my friend. One of her friends had been to Edinburgh before because she had lived there while she was studying. And so I thought, you know, I could also join along with them and have a good time. And so they were doing an Airbnb, and they welcomed me to come along. And as I was planning my trip, I started seeing more and more of my friends who were going. So Katika, my other girlfriend, and her sister and her daughter were going. And then people who I'd been following on Instagram. And so now I've learned of this massive group of brown girls heading to EYF. I must be a part of that. And so I booked my ticket and was ready to go. Meanwhile, in the internet fiber space, there was a discussion, an incident that led to a discussion around the lack of diversity and inclusion in the fiber space. And so through those conversations, I jumped in as well because I wanted to say something, and I thought I had a voice that I could add something to the conversation, and realized that, you know, this was a unique opportunity. Here we have all these brown girls going, all these BIPOC women, so women of color, going to Edinburgh, as well as the few vendors that I knew. And I thought, this is really a good time to be there. This is really something we could really have this amazing experience, all of us BIPOC makers and vendors in the same place at the same time, and really change the experience of Edinburgh for the ones who are going for their first, second, or third time. So, started a little bit of a chat group on Instagram, and the women of color, we all knew that we would meet up, and so that was one of the things that I was excited about. The second was I had been in contact with Micah and Joe from EYF to say, is there anything I can do with all that's going on, the conversation from a diversity perspective? And they took me up on my offer. And the three of us had a conversation, and I knew that they were working with Jeanette Sloan, who is an amazing maker. She had a yarn store in Edinburgh, and she's also done a lot of op-ed pieces on the lack, or do Black people knit, I believe is the title of her article. And so I knew that they were in contact with her. And then I also knew that Amy of Bien would be there, and Amy, from what I had been seeing, had been making a lot of posts and was very supportive and really sharing her own story and being vulnerable. And then the third person on the panel, fourth person if you include me, was Sophia Chai from Australia. And Sophia was also posting a lot and talking, and was headed to EYF as well. And so Mike and Joe and I thought, you know, this would be a really good opportunity to bring these BIPOC people together, makers, knitfluencers, as well as store owners, and to get together and have a conversation. And so that was the anchor event for me at this year's festival. So let me take you through the highlights of the festival day by day. So day one, I flew out of New York on Wednesday and got into Edinburgh on Thursday, which was really the first day, if I'm not mistaken, of the festival. I think they have classes on Wednesday, but this was the first day of the marketplace. I won't get into all the issues I had with my airline and missing my connection in Heathrow, but everything worked out for the best. I think I landed maybe around 2 or 3 o'clock, and by the time I got my luggage and got my Uber and got to my Airbnb, it was about 4. But I immediately showered and headed straight over to the coin exchange. Upon my arrival, didn't really plan to do much shopping, just wanted to stake out the environment and see what was going on. And so I was able to connect with Amy. I went over to her booth, I looked up Micah and Joe, and then I scoped out where some of the other stalls that I knew that I wanted to hit would be. So I knew I wanted to get to Pink Hazel. I knew I wanted to get to the yarn booth that had the Hide and Hammer booth. I think it's a yarn story is the name of that booth. And so those were 2 that I knew I went to hit, as well as La Bien Amie, because I was on the fence as to what I would use to make my Caitlin Hunter Ingalls sweater. So I knew I was on the hunt for that yarn, and I figured that Amy would have a really good yarn. So I did find yarn. So this is gonna be a bit of a conversation as well as show and tell of my yarn. So I did find yarn for my Ingalls. So I'll show you my Ingalls yarn. I'm a pink girl, rose pink, but no, honestly, I love all colors. Who am I kidding? But I tend to spend a lot of time in the blue and red category, and of past few years fell in love with rose gold. And so I found this beautiful rose gold. I hope you can see it, from La Bien Amie. I am new to this, so forgive me if I don't get things in focus. And then I got this other color, which highlights the rose gold, to bring a bit of a pop of color to it. All right, I think you can see it. I'm showing you the back of the tag there. So these were the colors. If it's blurry, please forgive me. I will get better at this eventually. And so I knew these were the colors that I would want to make my Ingalls. Then Amy and her amazing yellow brick road. She was wearing a sweater, as was Bintu, in this beautiful yellow color. And I'm like, you know, I haven't done much yellow, but I think I like this color. And I knew I was on my list was the Beekeeper's cardigan. So I knew I wanted to make that by Olive Knits. So Amy amazing friend that she was, let me try hers on. She was, you know, what size do you want to make? I made an extra large. Do you want to make a large? Just to have a little bit of room. And I tried on her sweater and immediately fell in love with this cardigan. I'll post some pictures so you can see. So much so that I somehow convinced her to let me borrow her cardigan for the rest of the night, which was the big knit night. So I have got here some amazing Yellow Brick Road graffiti. So it has little extra pop of colors in there. And again, this is new to me. Let's see if I'm doing a good job. Do I hold it there? Okay. So I got enough. So I got a sweater's quantity of the Yellow Brick Road graffiti. I got a sweater's quantity of the rose. This is the, I'm not going to pronounce it correctly because it's French, but it's a rose, something rose. So that will be my Ingles and my beekeeper's cardigan. So got to wind those and get started. So that was my Thursday shopping. And then Thursday was the knit night, which was super fun. Had a great time at the table, and Micah and Joe, they welcomed all of us there. And then the lovely ladies from Mason Dixon Knitting held a not fashion show. And they encouraged everyone to stand up and to show off their wares. And, you know, you were judged on other things other than just your finished garments. Some people walked without having finished garments, which was super fun. But you were judged on style and just attitude and just having a good time. And so I'm thinking, here I am, not in something that I knitted. I'm actually in Amy's cardigan, so I wouldn't walk. And then Amy pulled me up and said, come on, let's do it. And so her and Binto and I, we walked as the Yellow Brick Road triplets, all in yellow. And that was so much fun. Saw some really amazing work that night. And so a lot of women who came in clusters and groups of 2 to 4, all committed to making the same thing, which was adorable. So knit night, good time, fun. I was working on my weekender sweater because at this point I'm on sleeve island of the first sleeve. The second sleeve isn't done, and so I knew I needed to be finished with this because I wanted to wear it on Sunday for the diversity talk. So that was Thursday. By this time my roommates have arrived because they had major issues as well, traveling with the grounding of many of the Boeing planes, and so everything worked out, and here we all were in our flat having an amazing time on Thursday night. So Friday was my longest day. In the previous 2 years that I had gone to Edinburgh, I'd never stayed in the festival the whole day. I always did half day in the festival and half day in the city, just going around and exploring because it's such a beautiful city, and I love the doors, I love the sights, I love the Royal Mile, and so dividing my time was really good. But for some reason this year I ended up staying the entire day, which was a long day, but a fun day. So my purchases that day included, let's show you this lovely bag from Woolly Originals. And so this, they actually take yarn. So this is yarn from Ginger Twist Studio, as I understand it. And they machine knit it into a pattern. So they had other Nordic stars and Christmas trees and other things, but this was supposed to be the tribute to Edinburgh, right? And so I fell in love with this bag, and I learned about them from the lovely Espace Trico ladies because they wanted the bags, and so I went in to scope out bags for them and fell in love myself. So that was my first purchase that day. And then I did a beeline directly over to Pink Hazel, to Annette and her beautiful bags, and got yet another bag. Like, you know, who doesn't need another project bag? Hello. And so I got the one with sweaters. Sweaters and polka dots on the inside. How cute is that? And of course I had to get the pin, which is somewhere around here. I tried to lay out all my stash so I can easily reach it, but we'll see how that goes. So that was my second purchase. Then my third purchase was, not my third purchase, I'll call it my third acquisition, because I acquired yarn. Was I met through the Solidarity Swap Danitza of Nature's Luxury, and so I went over to her stall. She invited me over, and I acquired some yarn there as well. Oh my goodness, this is really amazing. This blue, it's super soft, and with this mohair, I'm gonna pair them together and do some sort of a cowl or something, but I just fell in love with these colors. So amazing. Lovely, lovely. And then I made it over to a yarn story to get for Felicia of String Things Studio the Hide and Hammer project bag, which is kind of like a lunch bag. When you unsnap it, you're able to fold it down, and I'm probably folding it the wrong way right now, and bring it around and snap it. Or see, told you, I folded it the wrong way. Let's fold it this way, like a lunch bag, and then you can bring this around and snap it and hold it in place. Or you can fold it down from the top, which I thought was super cute, and then it becomes kind of like a porter's bin or something to hold your yarn. So I had to get one of those, and this is the oxblood color, which is super vibrant. I like. They also had a yellow, which I wonder if I should have gotten a yellow for me and an oxblood for Felicia. So we have options, but that's okay. I love the bag that I got. And what else happened on that day? So after I made the purchase from a yarn story, I headed over to Isolde's booth, where Ocean by the Sea was having her pop-up. This was my first time seeing her yarn in person, so I came across or was introduced to Ocean through this diversity conversation, and immediately fell in love with her energy, fell in love with her content. The imagery, her imagery is so artistic, so soothing, and I got to meet her as well, so that was super good. But I had to support. One, just because, again, like I said, her energy is so incredible. Her energy and the yarn looked delicious. So upon going over there, good thing we went. We were maybe the third or fourth, my girlfriend Shantae and I were maybe the third or fourth people in line. And so I got some of this amazing, I don't even think the camera will do it correct justice, this Melanie color, which is an Aran weight yarn, right? And I got this another type of melon or peach, which is a mohair silk. Oh, feels so good. So I'm gonna put these two together, and I got enough to do a shawl. I knew that I would do a shawl, and so Espace Tricot, so Melissa of Espace Tricot sat with me that afternoon, and I showed her the yarn, and she picked out a pattern for me. I don't remember the name of the pattern. I will put it down below, but I know it's something by Isabel Kramer, and super good. I think it's Mellow Sun. I could be wrong, but I will share that. So I think that was my purchases on Friday, and Friday of course was the Kaylee. So I did not know how much I love a good Kaylee, but I absolutely do. It's so much fun. The team at EYF every year does a great Kaylee. They get the band does a little bit of mixture of songs that you might know, and then they lead into the Kaylee with instructions. And Regina, who's one of our housemates, is quite an accomplished dancer, so it was great having her at our table because she pulled us all up. And so our table was a mixture of my housemates and the young ladies from Espace Tricot and Polo from Mayak. And so we had a good table, and we were right by the dance floor, which made for easy access to dancing as well as viewing. Unfortunately, I had not finished my sweater, so my weekender was not complete, and this is now Friday. I'm still on Sleeve Island sweater sleeve 1 and needed to do another one the next day. So I felt like, do you remember when you were a kid and it was Friday and you knew you should have done all your assignments during the week so that come the weekend you can go out and play, and you didn't quite do that? That's how I felt. I felt like the kid sitting at the window doing my homework, doing my studies, while all my friends were right outside having a good time. So right next to me, they were dancing, I was knitting. That was an interesting experience, to say the least. I did get up though and dance for the Virginia Wheel, which is apparently one of my favorites, and caught some footage of all my friends having a good time. So we did not shut the dance floor down, but what I did learn that day is jet lag and lack of sleep confuses you. So I ran into what I thought was a friend of mine who I hadn't seen since last year. And my friend and I are chatting away and we're talking and I'm like, don't you have some news to tell me? And she's like, well, I'm like, didn't you get engaged? And she goes, oh yes, I did. And she shows me that her and her fiance, she has a tattooed mark on her finger where her engagement ring and wedding band will go. Really beautiful. And so I go to introduce my friend to Shantae, my other girlfriend, and I called my friend Grace. Grace of who is Vanna Miel, I think, and I'll probably say this wrong, but I'll put it down below. But that was not Grace. That was, in fact, Bristol Ivy, who I also know, but not as well as Grace. And I'm like, okay, I'm really sleepy because right now you two look like twins. I feel like I'm in an episode of Parent Trap. And again, I'm blaming it on the jet lag. And she's like, no, you know, Bristol. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, Bristol. I apologize. Thank you, Bristol, for accepting my apology. But later that night on the dance floor, there is the fabulous Grace, first on the dance floor, dancing up a storm. I step away for a minute, I think to get some sweets or something, and I come back and Bristol and Grace run up to me. I am not crazy. They do look alike. They're both tall. They both have glasses. They both got engaged. They both had their hair in ponytails. I'm like, okay, I do feel like an episode of Parent Trap. So that was the second joke of the Kaylee night. The first being me on Slave Island. So that was Friday. Good times there. Saturday also I should say that I was supposed to have a podcaster meetup on Friday, but completely got my days crossed, and so I missed my meetup time, but luckily was able to have one on Saturday. So Saturday was a big day because that was the day that we agreed that the BIPOC attendees, a few of us will get together outside of Soraya's stall and take a group picture. That was beyond exciting. One, I don't think everyone had met each other, so it was good for us all to come together to just meet and just to exchange, you know, names and Instagrams and see everyone in real life. We had been having a conversation on Instagram, but now here we are together, and so we took a ton of photos, and it was just a really good experience, particularly for me. Having gone to the festival for a number of years, and they were, you know, I wasn't always the only one, but there weren't a lot of BIPOC people attending. So this was probably the biggest group, collection, assortment of BIPOC attendees, and so it was really nice to see everyone. It was nice for everyone, I think, to be seen in that space, and so that was super fun. And then directly from there, I went straight over to the marquee to hold my podcaster meetup. So thank you to everyone who came over and sat at my table. We had a great conversation. Kind of was a precursor to the diversity conversation that we would have on Sunday, but it was nice to have just wasn't quiet, but to have an intimate conversation with 10 people or so, just about yarn and diversity and everything that we were trying to accomplish. So Saturday was the first chance for me to now leave the Corn Exchange and head out into town. So I ended up leaving to meet my girlfriend Katika to go have lunch, and I took Kay Gardner of Mason-Dixon with me. She was out front as well, getting ready to head back to meet her friends on the Royal Mile, and I'm like, you should come with me, come meet my owl. So Genevieve is the owl that I have been in love with for the past 3 years. The first year I went to the Royal Mile and I saw her, and someone took a picture with, or someone actually asked me to take a picture of her, and so I did, of them with her. I didn't take my own. I don't know what was wrong with me. I love owls. I don't know, it just didn't dawn on me, and I regretted it for several months that I did not take a picture with the owl. That was my one chance in life to take a picture with an owl, and I missed it. So the second year, that was on the agenda. And if you watched, I think, Christy Glask, when she shared her EYF, I talked about her EYF experience. I talked about how mission one was get me to the Royal Mile and get me to Genevieve. And I got a great, mission one was get me to the Royal Mile and get me to Guinevere so I could take my picture. And so that was accomplished. So now it's a thing. So now, the third year in a row, I must get a picture. And so I convinced Kay to come along, and we got there. My girlfriend Katika was there. And I took my picture with Guinevere, and it was the best. But then it got better. They said, oh, here's another owl you could take a picture with. What? So of course I took a picture with the second owl, but it started raining and my little owl friend was not enjoying it. And so the owl keepers, I'll call them, said, oh, we have a third bird for you. A third bird? Are you kidding? Come on. And they pulled out Skippy. Skippy is a cuckoo bird. Oh, no, a laughing cuckoo bird. And they tell you to make a sound. That was the best. So exciting. 3 for 1. 3 birds for the price. Okay, I gave a little more than for the price of 1 because the money that the donation that you give goes to the care of the bird. So I gave a little bit more. But again, 3 for 1 experience, right? So that was a highlight. Then, so we had lunch. I got the little shopping for the husband. And Saturday was the calm night because we had knitting to do. I should mention that Friday night, my girlfriend Shantae and I did stay awake and we had a 2 for 1 knitting marathon. 2, me and her, 1, me and my sweater. I worked on one sleeve while she worked on the other sleeve to get it done. And by Saturday night, it was done. Sweater was finished, just needed the ends to be weaved in, but it was done and I could wear it on Sunday. Yay. So now here we are, it's Sunday, the final day of EYF and the day of the diversity talk. I was really excited, a little nervous because I wasn't sure, you know, who would be in the audience, what would be the energy. I also knew that as the moderator, I wanted to make sure that I really honored the other panelists in the questions that I asked and just making sure that the space was safe, that everyone could speak their truth and feel good about what they were saying. And so the ladies and I, we agreed to meet for coffee that morning in Bert's coffee place right on the same building as the Coin Exchange. It's in the Coin Exchange, I should say. And so our coffee felt good, the 4 of us to be in the same place at the same time. We had all met each other throughout the weekend, but now here we all were, the 4 of us getting ready for our talk. And we got a chance to say a few words, got a chance to realign on the goal, on what we wanted to get out of the conversation. And it was really for us to just share our experiences, share how the conversation had impacted us, and really how we were going to use our platform to advance this conversation. So what are some words, what are some things that we're doing individually, and what are some what's some advice that we can offer to the other, to anyone really, whether you're a store owner, a vendor, a festival, you know, if you have a role in this community, what can you do in your sphere of influence to continue to advance the conversation? So I believe the conversation went really well. The hour went really fast, I will tell you that. By the time we each answered the questions that we had prepared, I think I took maybe 4 or 5 questions from the audience and then it was done. I would say that it's funny, I feel like it's a blur, right? I'm remembering bits and pieces of it now, and you know, I'm recording this a week after coming back, and I know that any day now we'll have the footage from EYF to share with the public. And as I talk about it, as I move further and further away from it, I remember less and less of it because of just the adrenaline, the jet lag, everything. What I do remember is the feeling of connecting with people in the audience. The first person to ask a question was Rosamund, who I had seen her name for quite some time, and there she was sitting in the front row. So I was beyond excited, and I think I kind of clapped a little bit when she said her name. And she asked a really good question about, you know, how to, you know, about people making statements, you know, the importance of it, why it's important to make a statement as far as your commitment to diversity. I won't steal any of the thunder or misquote any of the comments made. We will put that video up, and maybe not by the time that my podcast goes live, but in the coming days when that video is made live, I'll add a link here so that you can see it. And then that was it, right? Once once the diversity conversation happened, a huge sigh of relief, and I realized that I did what I came to do, and that felt rewarding in and of itself. So, you know, from Knit Night to the Kaylee, the BIPOC meetup, my own meetup, and then the diversity conversation, this was the most amazing EYF experience I've had to date. Definitely, God willing, as my grandmother would say, if God spares my life, I will definitely be there for EYF 2020. I really want to see where we are as a community in a year. I want to come back and wear my beekeeper cardigan and my Ingalls sweater to show that I did it. I have an aggressive list for this year. And just want to come back and see all the people that I connected with and touched this past EYF experience. So once I was finished with everything that I needed to do at EYF, then it was time to just enjoy and exhale. And so I met my mentor, who just happened to be in town with his wife and family. And so I met them at the Scotsman, which is a former printing house, which is now a hotel and a proper a cafe for tea, and they do a really lovely high tea. And so that was the perfect way to decompress, to step away for a minute and just absorb all that had happened. And then the rest of the day, just spent it with my flatmates, having a good time, just talking about the highlights of the weekend. Can't believe how quickly it came and went, but I feel good about the time. I feel great about the people that I connected with. I hope to stay in touch with everyone. And I probably didn't take as much footage for my podcast as I wanted to. So lesson for me, you get footage, not just the pictures. It's really hard as somebody who likes to share in the moment, deciding what I will share and what I will keep for the podcast. And so I'm gonna do my best in the future to have a good mixture of in time, here's what's happening, and saving some content for my podcast. So what's to come in the next few months of Ceci Knits the World? I am hoping to go to Stitches Midwest. A lot of yarn events that I plan to attend. Of course, here in New York, Friday night, Knit Night. I'll share a little bit more of that with you. Of course, Rhineback and India Untangle, big on the agenda as always. And just more trips, right? So the Hurt World Tour, my husband and I, we travel and we call it #HurtWorldTour, which always has a yarn stop. And so my husband's really supportive, and so we'll make sure that we plan and share the yarn shops that we visit. But until then, thank you for watching my first episode. As a newbie to this, I am welcoming all sorts of comments, and give me advice on how to make my podcast better. What are some things that you would like to see? What are some things that I can do to make my podcast more exciting, more inviting? And yeah, so thanks for joining, and stay tuned for more to come. Bye. Better late than never, right?
What's up? Okay, go follow Ellie. Go, Ellie.
So, yeah, we won't hold you back. You have a great evening. We're going to hand over to Anne and Kay from Mason Dixon Knitting. We're super excited to see you tonight. Anne, Kay, please take the stage. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Do you want to say a couple of words about the format of the evening, what's going to happen?
Yes, okay. So this evening, we know that lots of you are wearing superb knitwear. And one of the joys for us of Edinburgh Yarn Festival is seeing your superb knitwear. So when Anne and Kay offer to give you a full appraisal, we would love to see what you're wearing. So please, please don't be shy. And let's get on with the non-fashion fashion show.
It's a fashion show, and we are in it. The yellow girl.
So, the best cards. The best cards. And which other one I like? I love this. Okay. The best cards. Okay, this is all new for me. Supporting Ocean. It's a little crooked. Okay, it's something. I love this new yarn. It's called Westwool. This is their fingering. They have the same colors in their DK base. These colors are really vibrant. Love, love. All the colors.
Edinburgh Yarn Festival. We're going to have some fun dancing tonight. And you're welcome to dance to this too, if you like.
Ceci from Creative Ceci. Roping in Harlem Pearls. Shantae to finish her weekender sweater for Sunday.
That's what friends are for.
We are doing sleeves right now, yes?
Yes.
Finishing one and casting on the second one.
Well, actually, she came to visit me on Sleeve Island and decided to hang out for a little while.
Just for a little bit.
Okay, Lorraine should maybe not.
I'm having a little fun here.
We're right in front of
Yay! Sylvia's sweater. All right, let's do it. Let's do it. Hey! Hey!
Sorry? What yarn was?
But your fingers stop it going anywhere. Stop the spindle. Swap your fingers over. So your dominant hand has all the fluffing. Yeah? Then you pull back. So you get the thickness that you want. Again, there's no stress. You can take as long doing this as you want to. You're only looking for the next 2 or 3 inches. Pinch. Then let go. Pinch as force and it goes up.
Oh, glad you told me that. That would not be good. I'm learning what she likes. Oh my goodness. Is it a boy or a girl? Boy. And his name?
His name's Hoolet.
Hoolet?
Hoolet.
Hoolet.
Which means owl in
Hoolet.
Scotch.
Yes, Hoolet.
Should hide in your hair now.